among the Quranic prophecies relating to events and inventions of our age, there are some which are of outstanding importance and great global significance. One such prophecy relates to the impending danger of a nuclear holocaust. This prophecy was made at a time when man could not entertain the idea of an atomic explosion by any stretch of his imagination. But there are certain verses of the Holy Qur'an which clearly speak of tiny insignificant particles, which are described as storehouses of immense energy, as though the fire of hell was locked within them. Amazing as it may seem, this is exactly what is literally described in the Holy Qur'an in chapter 104. وَيْلٌ لِكُلِّ هُمَزَةٍ لُمَزَةٍ الَّذِي جَمَعَ مَالًا وَعَدَّدَ يَحْسَبُ أَنَّ مَالَهُ أَخْلَدَ كَلَّا لَيُنبَذَنَّ فِي الْحُطَمَةِ وَمَا أَدْرَاكَ مَا الْحُطَمَةُ نَارُ اللَّهِ الْمُوقَدَةُ التي تطلع على الأفئدة إنها عليهم مؤصدة في عمد ممددة. This short Quranic chapter is densely packed with astounding statements which lie far beyond the reach of the people of that age. Strange is it not to read that the sinful people of a certain description would be cast into the hutama, which means the tiniest of particles, such as we see floating in a beam of light which passes through a poorly lit room. According to authentic Arabic lexicons, the word hutama has two root meanings. First, hatama, which means to pound or pulverize into extremely small particles, and the second, hitma, which means the smallest insignificant particle. The two meanings which I just mentioned can rightfully be applied to any extremely minute particle which has reached the limits of its divisible potential. Now, explaining the word hutama, the Holy Quran speaks of a blazing fire built within it and confined in extended columns. It says when man will be cast into it, this fire will directly leap upon his heart as though no intervening ribcage existed. This can only mean that this fire would be of a completely different nature, which could directly kill the heart before it could scorch the body. Certainly, no fire known to man of that age could be described as such. These, however, are not the only elements of surprise about this description. What follows is even more astonishing. This fire is mentioned as having been locked up in outstretched columns, waiting to leap upon man till such time as it is destined to be unleashed. Wonder upon wonder is heaped in such a short space of a few simple statements. What seemed so unrealistic 1400 years ago has become a commonplace reality which even young children can understand today. Let's briefly turn to the issue of how this fire could leap directly upon the heart. So the scientific description is given as follows. At the instant of explosion, large quantities of gamma rays, neutrons, and X-rays are immediately released. The X-rays raise the temperature immediately to meteoric heights, creating a great ball of fire rising rapidly, riding the extremely hot atomic blast. This is the canopy of fire like a huge mushroom, which is seen from far and wide. The X-rays also travel sideways in all directions, along with the neutrons, causing immense heat which burns away everything on its way. The speed at which this heat front moves is many times the speed of sound, which also creates shock waves. But much faster and more penetrating than this are the gamma rays, which outpace the heat front by leaping forward at the speed of light. They are so immensely vibrant that by the sheer force of their vibration they strike the hearts dead. Again in Surah Al-Dukhan, in chapter 44, the Holy Qur'an describes a lethal cloud which comprises a deadly radiant smoke. And it says, فَارْتَقِبْ يَوْمَ تَأْتِي السَّمَاءُ بِدُخَانٍ مُبِينٍ يَغْشَى النَّاسَ هَذَا عَذَابٌ أَلِيمٌ. The nature of this cloud is further qualified in the Holy Quran, chapter 77. انطلقوا إلى ما كنتم به تكذبون انطلقوا إلى ظل ذي ثلاث شعب لا ذليل ولا يغني من اللهب إنها ترمي بشرر كالقصر كأنه جمالة صفر. Here, the words move towards indicate that mankind will be gradually carried into an era where it will confront this calamity of a tormenting cloud which offers no shade or protection. If we look closely in this verse, no sun is mentioned, just a fire, from whose blaze this shadow affords no protection. Nothing under its shade is safe. This clearly is the description of a radioactive cloud. The event being described will throw up huge flames of a dusky yellow appearance, flames that are likened to castles and also have the appearance of camels. This fateful description is also referred to in another verse of the Holy Quran in chapter 77, which reads, وَيْلٌ يَوْمَئِذٍ لِلْمُكَذِّبِينَ. That day, يَوْمَئِذٍ, can refer to the day of judgment, but it also refers to a time here on earth when those who refuse to believe in the signs, al-mukaththibin, will be tormented by a smoke that casts a deadly shadow over whatever lies beneath. It will be a shadow which will move on from land to land, bringing no relief, but only a shade full of agony. That will be the age when, having witnessed this divine punishment of colossal dimensions, man would at last turn to God, beseeching His favor to rescue him from this unbearable chastisement. But what needs to be understood is that when the wrath of God overtakes people, the time for forgiveness and deliverance is already over. Thus the Holy Quran explains it in chapter 44. It says, أَنَّا لَهُمُ الذِّكْرَى وَقَدْ جَاءَهُمْ رَسُولٌ مُبِينٌ ثُمَّ تَوَلَّوْا عَنْهُ وَقَالُوا مُعَلَّمٌ مَجْنُونٌ. Prophetic warnings are only delivered to awaken man to the danger of calamities which are but the consequence of his own folly. The prophecies mentioned clearly relate to our age. They speak of events which were completely unknown to the people of earlier ages. The real transfer of these events from the realm of the unseen to that of the seen could only become possible in the nuclear age. The enormity of the atomic catastrophe is horrendous. Yet little attention is paid by man to investigate and identify the underlying roots of this evil. The sight of man seldom penetrates beyond the surface he scans. So few among them can introspect themselves to discover the hidden face of their evil intentions. This is a sort of blindness which is specifically related to the crookedness in man. Whenever he himself is responsible for causing suffering and spreading evil around him, he will not identify his own hand behind them. Such is the chain of the catastrophes of global impact we are examining. The Quran explains the phenomenon of a trigger indeed, but focuses our intention not on the trigger, but upon the finger that pulls it. This is the purpose of the Quranic warnings. The lighthouse of the Quranic prophecies clearly shows what rocks to avoid and what channels to follow. In Surah Al-Qamar, Allah explains this to us with reference to the history of earlier peoples who did not take heed of the warnings delivered to them by the divine messengers of their time. As a consequence, they, one and all, witnessed the tragic end that was promised to them, and their belated repentance was of no avail. The only purpose served by the warning is for the future generations to take heed. وَلَقَدْ جَاءَهُمْ مِنَ الْأَنْبَاءِ مَا فِيهِ مُزْدَجَرٌ حِكْمَةٌ بَالِغَةٌ فَمَا تُغْنِي النُّذُرُ. The atomic holocaust to which we refer is also discussed in Surah Taha in chapter 20 in relation to its ultimate consequences. By implication, the verse also makes it clear that it would be the pride and arrogance of the great world powers of the time which will be broken. Mankind as such will not be wiped out. The relevant verse clearly predicts that this will not be a point of termination of mankind as such. It will be only the might of the arrogant political powers that will be shattered. From their graves will rise the new world order. The mountain-like superpowers will be pulverized and leveled as though into a vast expanse of sand. You will not detect any highs or lows or aboves or belows in their contour. The Qur'an predicts that once their pride is shattered and they are finally humbled and straightened, only then will they be fit to respond to the humblest of callers unto God, who has no crookedness about him. Now it lies in the hands of God alone, but only if our hands are raised in prayer before Him.
I've expressed my view on many occasions that the leaders of some of the nuclear powers are trigger happy and appear not to appreciate the truly grave consequences of nuclear warfare. Not only do such weapons have the power to annihilate the countries targeted, but also have the potential to destroy the peace and stability of the entire world. Thus, it is imperative that nations and their leaders do not focus only on their own national interests, but consider what is best for the world at large. Dialogue with other nations and communities is vital, and each party should work together with the spirit of tolerance and with the shared objective of developing true and sustainable peace in the world. It is my heartfelt prayer that may Allah the Almighty enable true peace to emerge, and may the long shadows of war and conflict that hover above us be replaced by blue skies of peace and prosperity. Instead of seeking to dominate others and assert their own rights, I pray that nations and their leaders come to see the benefit of fulfilling the rights of one another. Instead of laying the blame for the world's problem on certain religion or people of particular ethnicities, I pray that we show tolerance of each other's belief and customs and value the diversity within our societies. I pray that we come to see the best in humanity and use each other's strength and skills to build a better world for our children and to cultivate lasting peace in society.